Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rob Stoneman. I am the Vice Chair of the IUCN Peatland Programme, also its founder. Just getting a cup of tea. Thank you. So very, very, very proud and pleased to be here. It's great to see such an amazing turnout, and it's great to be back in Northern Ireland, home of peatlands. We love Northern Ireland in the team, of course. The very first lecture I ever went to about peatland conservation, rather than peatland science, was back in 1992, and it was actually a lecture given by Richard Lindsay, and he talked about being underappreciated, undervalued, and misunderstood. I don't think he was talking about himself. He was talking about peatlands, and we heard exactly that from Diana Kapansky earlier on about how peatlands around the world have been underappreciated, and he called it the Cinderella complex, which I thought was quite a nice name, and I always love to talk about peatlands as a Cinderella, and are we nearly getting into the ball and all that kind of stuff. But one of the reasons, there was also, I mean, at that time, there was a paper written talking back of a fact packet figure about, you know, maybe there's quite a bit of carbon in these peatlands if you look at them around the world. And of course, we didn't know about half the peatlands in the world at that time. We hadn't discovered the Congo peatlands in particular and so on. But there was this paper about, you know, maybe there's some link to climate change. And as we got to understand that through the 90s, the importance of peatlands started to rise and rise and rise in the agenda. So it's been a really important part of getting Cinderella out of the kitchen and at least dancing in the ball. But we've seen, you know, across the world, there are still multiple problems, and we're still having a debate in the UK with our lovely government talking about whether you should put wind farms on peat. Of course not. You know, what a ridiculous thing to do. Destroy carbon to reduce carbon. Come on. So, you know, these debates continue and continue and continue. But it's not all about carbon, of course, and that's why the UK Peatland Programme and Environment Programme be thinking about some of these other co-benefits of peatland restoration, and particularly water. So the English Environment Agency and the programme have been running this series of webinars to look at all of those important benefits, and 70% of drinking water comes from upland catchments. Most of those catchments, of course, have a lot of peat in there. That's a massive advantage and has some downsides. We'll talk about that later. 2018 paper talked about 43% of the UK population dependent on peatland supplied water. So this is a big deal for us here in the UK. We've got to really think about that. So we wanted to think about the real importance of peatlands for water, whether that's the impact of degrading peatlands in the flow country and its impact on salmon populations and that massive decline in wild salmon populations, also linked to peatland degradation, or wet woodlands and cleaning up water quality in lowland rivers and so on. So, you know, there's enormous benefits from peatland restorations, not just water quality, also natural flood management. I mean, peatlands, of course, are a naturally flashy system. They're saturated water in a near natural state. But drain bogs will flow that water through a lot quicker than a near natural bog or a restored bog. Restored bogs are hydrologically rough. They're naturally a pattern of hummocks and hollows that makes it difficult for the water to get across the surface, let alone when in normal times. So let's continue that conversation here today. We've got some amazing panelists. We've got 6 panelists, and we're going to start with 4 quite quick lightning talks. So we're going to ask each panelist to do a very quick talk on a subject that's dear to their heart. They're going to give us a killer fact, or a key fact anyway, and then they're going to join the panel. So I'm going to start. Please introduce yourselves. But I'm going to start with Sanjeev. Up the stage, please.